Oh dear God, welcome to the damage report, everybody. These times they're something. Brett and I, before the show, were just talking about it. It's dark out there, did you know it? If you've been online, you know all about it, how bad everything is and why and for what. But anyway, we're gonna get into some of the particular iterations of how it's bad with me, John Earl, and Brett Erlich, the Lord
Everton
of Friday.
just secured its place in the Premier League. That's fantastic. Good job, Everton. And its biggest soccer hooligan fan, Sophie Morrison.
Is that going to be one of the driving plot points the next season of Ted Lasso? Why are you bringing that up? I don't understand. Anyway, that is great news for fans of Everton. I hear Jodie Comer's a fan of Everton, so good news for her. Anyway, football aside, Brett Erlich, we're going to be talking about the news right now. You, I assume later on tonight, are going to be doing Game Busters?
Sure, I don't know. We haven't planned it. Me and my wife have been sick the last couple weeks, so it seems like everyone's on the other side of it, which is fantastic. And thanks to everybody who supported us through all of this. She had it worse than I did because I'm a stronger person, because I'm a male. I've been watching a lot of Joe Rogan and the Tesla founder, whatever his name is. So I know that now, and that's freed me up to be more accepting. Subjugating other people and declaring myself superior is actually more accepting. Thank you.
It does feel good to do that. That's true. Anyway, glad that you're on the other side of it. I returned from a trip to the East Coast and was of course worried that I would inevitably get COVID. I am 3 negative tests in. We'll see if I can make it the full 5, full spread. But anyway, for now I'm feeling good. Physically, in terms of the news, terrible. It's a hellscape out there. But anyway, we're gonna be diving into that hellscape together, and we'll see who makes it out the other side. So over the course of our show, we're gonna be talking about a lot of stuff. We're gonna be starting off with Elon Musk, who decided to switch things up. He has been the cause and the blame for a lot of bad news over the last few months. Now he's gonna be the cause for bad news for him. So something new. We've got that. Donald Trump's endorsement, is it actually necessary? There's increasing amounts of evidence that for some on the Republican side, not necessarily so. And we've got our January 6th Jamboree, an update of news having to do with the insurrection. We are gonna try to figure out if any of it will make any difference whatsoever. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff. And if you're watching our full show on Twitch or YouTube, you will eventually see us throw away our garbage people of the week. I've got an especially garbagey one. And so with that, Brett, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank all of you out there for sticking with the news and ideally hitting the like button, sharing the stream so that the algorithm something. And if you want to send us any comments, tweets, super chats, anything like that, we'll respond as we go. But with all that said, Brett, are you ready to talk about some news?
Whether I am or not, you've been more than kind.
Oh, that bothers me that you said it that way.
Why? More than fair? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so now I don't feel good. Anyway, with that said, let's jump into the news. Bad news for Elon Musk. SpaceX, one of the companies that he runs, apparently paid a flight attendant $250,000 back in 2018 to settle a sexual misconduct claim that she was making against Elon Musk. This is being reported by Insider, and we're gonna dive into the details of it, acknowledging that the details have been provided from a combination of a friend of the woman. The woman is not coming forward, she is not a part of this, and a documentation from the time. The woman who apparently made the actual claim is currently under an NDA with non-disclosure and non-disparagement clauses for Elon Musk, SpaceX, Tesla, basically everything. She cannot, let's say, speak freely with free speech about what happened, because Elon Musk doesn't want her to. Anyway, here is what apparently happened back in 2016. The attendant worked as a member of the cabin crew on a contract basis for SpaceX's corporate jet fleet. She accused Elon Musk of exposing his erect penis to her, rubbing her leg without consent, and offering to buy her a horse in exchange for an erotic massage. The friend says he whipped out his penis, it was erect, and he started propositioning her. Like he touched her thigh and told her he would buy her a horse, as you do. He basically tried to bribe her to perform some sort of sexual favor. And the friend said that afterward, the attendant was distraught and visibly shaken. She was really upset, she didn't know what to do. She apparently said that after that, work began to dry up for her. Eventually, the attendant felt, quote, she was being pushed out and punished for refusing to prostitute herself. So this is about as classic a case of sexual harassment, assault in a workplace as you can imagine based on the allegations, in that there was initially these rewards being dangled in front of you, and then if you turn it down, there's the strike back, at least being alleged in this case, that potentially work dried up, she wasn't brought on the flights anymore, lost access to the money and all of that. There's a lot of other angles to this, Brett, that we'll get into, and we have to bear in mind that he's denying that any of this happened. What do you think?
I will say that there's a lot to say about this, but one thing we can all conclude from it is that Elon Musk is just a romantic. Ugh. According to these allegations, it seems like he really knows how to flirt very effectively. You just whip it out. You offer someone a horse, all the classic flirtations. Ugh. Insane. It is so creepy. But as I
that's why with the horse. Skip.
For those listening to the podcast, a very triumphant equestrian just appeared on screen.
Exactly. We've got a lot of horse enthusiasts on the staff today.
I usually can focus when she was so happy. I got a horse. But yeah, it is. Listen, there's a lot that you could conclude as a result of this, and I am of the mind that, like, listen, there are tons of settlements that happen in workplace allegations that involve monetary payment and don't actually have any basis in anything.
Sure.
But so that happens. And just because there's an NDA out there doesn't mean that the person who signed it, the people who signed it, are hiding the thing they're accused of. I hate to break it to a lot of people, but that's the case. However, I will say I have multiple sources that work at SpaceX and say that it is a wildly toxic environment to work in. He makes it a bad place. The kind of pressure that he puts on people is psychotic. And in terms of the balance of ladies to bros, there's a lot of bros. And so everyone who works there will admit that that is the case with that work environment. And the way that this guy handles himself in general, it fits with that narrative of who Elon Musk is. And a lot of this is smokescreen anyway. But I will say, if we're taking the NDA as a term of service that restricts speech, so too are the terms of service that restrict speech on these platforms that Elon Musk is complaining about when it's not in his favor from a messaging perspective, and loves when it is in his favor from a legal perspective.
Yeah, no, he's never had any interest in the free speech rights of women he has alleged to have sexually assaulted, in this case, journalists, all that stuff. He's not interested in that. It's only an opportunistic thing on social media. It's a brand that he has put onto himself only in the last few months. And of course, people have absolutely gobbled it up. Oh, the rich guy says he likes free speech, so clearly that's true and always has been. But anyway, there are other weird things about this, bear in mind. The friend says they encouraged her to get licensed as a masseuse, but on her own time, on her own dime. They implied that she would get to fly more often if she were to do this, because then she'd be able to give Elon proper massages. I thought that was kind of strange, because you weren't hired to be a masseuse, you were hired to be a flight attendant. And if Elon likes massages, then he should be paying for you to go to masseuse school. So that's weird too, the idea that they didn't want to apparently hire professional masseuses to come on the flights. They wanted to incentivize flight attendants to become masseuses so that they could do the other job that they have. The entire thing very weird. Anyway, this incident is alleged in a declaration signed by a friend of the attendant and prepared in support of her claim. Details are drawn from the declaration as well as other documents, including email correspondence and other records shared with Insider by the friend. So everyone, like, if you're a huge Elon Musk fan, first of all, get literally any other hobby. Second of all, they are going to say, as we'll turn to, well, this is just coming now because he loves free speech so much. This is from 2016 to 2018 when the settlement happened. So just bear that in mind in terms of the time. Now, of course, if Insider gets this information and plans to write it, they are, as a serious journalistic enterprise, going to reach out to the people cited in it. And they did that. They contacted Musk for comment. He emailed to ask for more time to respond and said there's, quote, a lot more to the story. And then he started his first of many bad defenses, saying, if I were inclined to engage in sexual harassment, this is unlikely to be the first time in my entire 30-year career that it comes to light. He called the story a politically motivated hit piece. Now, the idea that I can't be a harasser if this is the first time someone's saying it doesn't make sense. Every harasser has a first time. It's an especially weak defense when it's coming about only years after you used an NDA to stop the person from talking about it, which at least provides a hypothetical situation wherein there are other NDAs stopping people from talking about it at SpaceX or Tesla or whatever other companies worked at for the 30 years. So that is a horrible defense, but he asked for more time. Insider extended the deadline and reiterated the offer to Musk to comment on the claims. He didn't respond, but to be clear, he didn't respond to Insider. He instead immediately ran to social media to get out in front of the story that he had now been warned was about to come out. And that is when you start to get these tweets that made headlines earlier. Like him saying, in the past, I voted Democrat because they were mostly the kindness party, but they have become the party of division and hate. So I can no longer support them and will vote Republican. Now watch their dirty tricks campaign against me unfold. Political attacks on me will escalate dramatically in the coming months. One of the writers for the piece made clear in a tweet, so I will let you know exactly when we reached out to him. It was at 9 a.m. Eastern yesterday, and he spent the next couple hours tweeting about how there's now gonna be a tax. Now that is such a transparent attempt to get out in front of it that it could possibly work, except it of course will, and every single one of his fans will accept it, as we'll turn to in a moment. But first, Brett, there's a few more little details for you.
It's so funny, guys. This hurts because this has never happened before. A billionaire voting Republican. Oh God, how am I gonna handle it? I need some kind of grief counseling. No, Elon Musk is only ever in it for Elon Musk. And there's a certain strain of DNA within the American cellular makeup that loves that. That's what it's about. Go get yours. That do for you. I'm fine with America, like to a certain extent, still being the wild, wild west of commerce. I get it. It is how we roll. It is an American thing that people are still very proud of, no matter who it costs. But the truth here is we now have an absolute through line that when you're Bitcoin bros who defend Elon Musk simply because they want a complete lack of regulation in any market, despite how many times a lack of regulation has led to the destruction of every market. That's why they're with them. And you get to say back, yo, the reason that journalists write their article before they ask the person to respond is because of stuff like this. The reason they wait until the last moment is because schmuckos like this, the powerful. So if you need your decoder ring to find out why Elon Musk is voting with Republican, it's because they catered to the powerful.
Yeah.
They run off and then they try to use their lawyers and their social media campaigns to basically fight against something that is inherently liberal and progressive, which is the actual free sharing of information and discourse.
100%. So let's turn now to how this is playing out. So Elon Musk gets a heads up that this harassment assault story is about to come out. And rather than providing like an actual strong defense to them when given the opportunity, he immediately runs to Twitter and does a couple things. He tells his fans, if anything comes out in the near future, it's just politically motivated. And then if that isn't enough, he then, after a couple months now of both he and the right trying to pretend that Elon Musk guy, he's just an independent thinker. He's not a right winger at all. You never know which way he's gonna go. I mean, I know he appeals to us in literally every way. Nobody can make a case for how he's supposed to be a leftist or whatever, but no, he's like an independent. He decides, okay, I'm done with that. I'm voting Republican. Everyone, I'm a Republican, defend me soon. And that is indeed what they will do, because you can see tweets like this, which by the way, this is both a rando and also I'm pointing it out because he responded to it. Tara Bull says, where were these wild accusations against Elon Musk before he took a stand against the establishment? Which Elon Musk says, exactly. And he means exactly what I was hoping you would say when I did this thing where I tried to get you to defend me. So to Terrible's question, I will provide a couple of responses. One, standing with the Republican establishment is not being against the establishment.
Exactly.
Can we be clear about that? Like, if you're one, like,
go ahead.
Continue, jump in.
When you're a billionaire who gets subsidized by the federal government to do whatever the hell you want, you're the establishment. When you're the richest person on the planet, you're the establishment. Period. Full stop, dude.
That's what it is. So look, if you're a guy like this who tried to pretend that you were a moderate and now you're identifying as a Republican and you're a billionaire and you want the tax cuts and all that, that's not actually being anti-establishment. In a somewhat related sense, if you're a former leftist who now encourages everyone to vote for Republicans literally every time, you're not actually anti-establishment. You're just for that other part of the establishment. So anyway, it worked. They're defending him. There isn't a single Elon Musk fanboy who is going to actually like read the story seriously or even wait for more information to come out. It's obviously a lie. My second answer to Terrible, where were these wild accusations against Elon Musk before he took a stand against the establishment? Well, they existed because this was alleged in 2016, actually, way before he was standing against the establishment. Anyway, he says the attacks against me should be viewed through a political lens because that would be convenient to him. This is their standard despicable playbook, but nothing will deter me from fighting for a good future and your right to free speech. This is just Trump. That's all that is. They're only coming for me to get to you. And by the way, the fact that the friend brought it up, that could be politically motivated, sure. Even from her statements, it kind of seems like it is. But she didn't invent whole cloth the accusations, which he settled. He was in the room for the moderation of that settlement literally years ago. And I can't say for sure that everything that's alleged actually happened, but it didn't suddenly manifest after he decided he was gonna buy Twitter. That already existed. The toxic work environment at his corporations, that's existed for literally years. He is seemingly taking it seriously, but then of course he has to pretend that he's above it all. He's a fun, wild, crazy guy. So he tweets, finally we get to use elongate as scandal name. It's kind of perfect. Because he's having fun with it. He's not mad, he's laughing. And then he goes on to say, but I have a challenge to this liar who claims their friend saw me exposed. Describe just one thing, anything at all, scars, tattoos that isn't known by the public. She won't be able to do so because it never happened. So he's very careful there, by the way, to ask the friend to do that, not the person that is currently bound by an ironclad NDA. The friend didn't see him. Maybe the woman who made the accusations both in the moment saw, then remembered and relayed specific information about his apparently very distinctive weird genitalia. But you do not, by the way, let's just be clear. An accusation of harassment and assault does not require specific mole mapping to be credible. That's not actually how it works, but predators often try to make that the bar that generally women have to pass.
Right. Do you think there's so much great about this? First of all, your wiener looks like your rockets. We all know that. Like you designed them that way. I'm sure there was an engineer being like, there's more drag if we make it weird like your penis. And then they go like, he goes like, overruled. Like that's Elon Musk in a, so to speak, nutshell. But like the fact that he's kind of saying he has a weird penis, like, and more seriously, I guess, do you think that in the moment where you whip your wiener out, she's then gonna be like, all right, I can now memorize it and draw it whenever I want with great certainty? Yeah, that's not how it works. I can't draw. I can't tell you anything about my own.
Yeah, it's just kind of traumatized. It's like, okay, you say that you were hit by a car. You describe the grill. That's not how that works. Yeah, that's not how anything works. And you don't have to do that. I mean, if you were going to, if I was a betting man, I'd say I'd describe it as really weird and awful. Probably I would bet a significant amount of money that it's pretty awful. A lot of your whole persona and public image seems like the overcompensation of a person who has an awful, weird penis. If I had to guess, I'm just guessing. Don't sue me or anything. Anyway,
I bet he has an utterly normal penis that has diamonds in it, like that one villain in the Bond movies.
From Die Another Day.
From Die Another Day. I just want to say, I bet he's like, I could picture him go like he was on Joe Rogan, like, they call it the pretzel.
I don't know.
He tied it in a knot.
By the way, just in case it wasn't clear to us, our producer's telling us that we have gone off topic, which is true, we have. So let's return to the topic. He then ties it into what he's doing with Twitter, saying it was clear their only goal was a hit piece to interfere with the Twitter acquisition. The story was written before they even talked to me. Well, that's just how it works. They would have added what you said if you had responded. In fact, they did. To the limited extent that you responded, they did put that in there. That's how journalism works. And the idea that it's only meant to interfere with Twitter, Garen, what do you think the chances are that he tries to use this as a yet another evolving reason to back out of the Twitter acquisition?
I mean, he's a raw dog capitalist, and what he's trying to do is essentially do anything that benefits him financially. And he is basically, what it took in this Bitcoin surge is just any bit of rumor or news to get the normies to go buy into it and inflate the price of anything that somebody was able to bring attention to. And Elon Musk is like, how sometimes ants all band together and then they form it like a branch that works something bigger than them. Like that's Elon Musk. He is a bunch of Bitcoin bros all banded together into like this anthropomorphized blob of goo. Yeah. And he is the person who is able to make anything kind of peak a little bit. So that was Dogecoin, that's Twitter. He's able to inflate the price. And then when he completely steals all the value out of it and leaves, he gets to declare monetary victory. And if it falls apart, he has enough like yes men behind him to declare some kind of Pyrrhic moral victory and move on and exploit them again later if this one didn't work out.
Definitely. Yeah, no matter what happens, if he ends up pulling out and losing $5 billion or whatever, they'll claim that it's like a big brain businessman thing to do. And some of them will be genuine. There are actually people this pathetic. Some of them are real. A lot though, if you start to click on some of your replies of people defending him from this, you're gonna notice some accounts that started in May of 2022. I'll just say that. Anyway, with that said, we do have to go to our first break. When we come back, we're gonna be jumping into a little bit of what might happen in terms of these primaries that are coming up. So don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Our choices are very simple. There are some people who are despondent about the voter fraud and election theft in 2020. Folks, put that behind you. Put that behind you. Yes. Look forward. Look forward. Look forward. Beat them in 2022. Beat them in 2024. All right. Well, look back at it, but go forward and take advantage of it.
So that is Mo Brooks a couple months ago saying, hey everybody, so the 2020 election was literally years ago. Can we maybe focus on the election that's about to happen? A very reasonable thing to say. Of course, the crowd lost their minds. And so in real time, he decided, okay, look back. But also, anyway, that seemed really bad for him because not only did a crowd boo him after coming specifically to see him, but not that long after that, he had to put out an ad really sucking up to Trump. He lost Trump's endorsement anyway, and so that's that really. Because in the Republican Party, it's all about Trump. You need his endorsement or you have no chance, except here comes Mo Brooks. He's actually kind of doing better than he was immediately after losing the endorsement. If we can put up this poll, you're gonna see effectively, the more you go to the left, the more recent the poll is. And he is just narrowly behind Katie Britt now. Now, if you go way back to last year, he had 40% of the vote. There were less people in the race. They didn't know Katie Britt. Then he loses the endorsement in March, drops down to 16%. He lost more than half of his support. And then you start to move forward and he's back up to 22, then he jumps to 28. He actually seems to be doing okay. He's now in a statistical tie with the front runner, Katie Britt, despite months of Trump not supporting him. And if you don't remember, Trump put out some pretty mean stuff about him. He said, Mo Brooks of Alabama made a horrible mistake recently when he went woke and stated, referring to the 2020 presidential election scam, put that behind you, put that behind you. He said that he went woke. That's like the worst thing that they can say about you on the right, but he's starting to do better. Right, what do you make of it?
What does went woke mean? It doesn't mean anything. He went woke. So here's what's hilarious about the use of woke is it doesn't mean anything. Trump does this so meticulously, fastidiously, and then gets sloppy. And that's why he does the work early of just saying woke is bad, woke is bad. Woke is this, woke is when you say that you should accept people, woke bad, 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 bad. And now he can say woke whenever he wants, and it no longer means anything other than that person is bad. He did it with fake news. Fake news used to actually mean something very specific, but he changed the definition of that, and now he just says it as a way of signaling. So it's vice signaling, as I coined, not John. Vice signaling, you're signaling to your base that you suck the same way they suck.
Yeah.
And Mo Brooks, what did he call out that sucked about Mo Brooks? Not that he's woke, but that he was like, well, we should at least acknowledge some modicum of reality.
Yeah.
And that is against woke because the invective of woke, because when people say woke as an insult on someone, they're like, you don't accept the reality that like there's two genders, male and female. Like it's the absolute opposite of the original meaning of woke as they coined it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and by the way, Mo Brooks wasn't like Biden won, so move on. He was just like, it's literally years ago and we need to win these elections. We can't change 2020, which he's been proven right. Trump still isn't president, by the way. Anyway, Mo Brooks responded to the accusations that he was woke, saying, I have not changed. And it seems like the base kind of has come to agree with him. Like, oh yeah, I guess he is still an awful right winger. I guess maybe we can go with him. Now, Trump said that he would endorse a different candidate. It's been a couple months, he still hasn't, because he's not a serious person. He says he's closely monitoring the race. Now look, maybe if Trump comes out and tweets about Katie Britt and pretends that he's ever heard of her before, then maybe that'll blow this race wide open. But as of right now, it isn't looking like your endorsement literally being pulled, which is somewhat unprecedented. It's certainly not common in politics, really hurt him that much. And it's not just Mo Brooks. Final comment from you and then we'll turn to another race.
What I can tell you what's happening in politics here is everyone knee-jerkingly, like no one knows anything about their local race, let's be honest. They only know the name of the person who has the job. That is the, incumbent reelection rates are in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so when the endorsement was pulled, they're like, well, I'm gonna go to anyone else. But the memory for this is so short, and they probably lost some people that were Trump fans anyway from like actually caring. They looked around and they're like, nothing else is happening. So he gets to tighten, and things tightened anyway as elections go along, specifically if people already know your name. But the truth is, this is not a reflection of whether Trump has any effect over these elections, but rather like how bored Trump is. He just kind of is like, I'm out. But he doesn't actually care about the results, and he doesn't actually care about other people winning. He only cares about how it reflects on him, and Mo Brooks reflected poorly on him, so he's distancing.
Well, let me give you some more evidence of what you were just saying, because after pulling his endorsement for Mo Brooks, he might be pulling his endorsement, or at least trying to hide his endorsement of David Perdue. So David Perdue is challenging Brian Kemp to be the Republican nominee for governor of Georgia. Donald Trump hates Brian Kemp because he believes that Brian Kemp lost in the 2020 election, even though Brian Kemp seems perfectly willing to suppress the vote and everything. And even if Brian Kemp had somehow unilaterally changed the results of the Georgia election, Trump still wouldn't be president. But regardless of all that, Trump hates Brian Kemp, so he's been supporting David Perdue, who you might know is the former senator who gamed the system during the pandemic to make a bunch of money off of private information he had about the pandemic and was thrown out of the Senate as a result of that. Well, it's looking like David Perdue not that much more popular in this race than when he was trying to stay in the Senate. If you look at this recent polling, Brian Kemp has actually been gaining ground. He was at 50% back in March. He's at 60% now. David Perdue is down to 28. There's really no other candidates that matter in that race. And so apparently Trump isn't planning to make any more personal appearances on Perdue's behalf. He believes he's already put enough political capital in the race and it looks like a lost cause, which is a way of Trump saying that although he continually says that his endorsement is the only thing that matters, He's already put a bunch of his time and attention into it, and it's only hurt the guy that he supports. And so I'm not saying that his endorsement isn't important in some races, but it is not everything, clearly, as these two races confirm.
David Perdue's a loser. Yeah, he lost a Senate race. He's a Republican who lost a Senate race in Georgia.
Which almost never happens.
I mean, it has happened. But so not since 2000 since 2002 or 4 marked the end of the final end of the realignment of Democrats finally coming, like being like the last old South Democrat died. Because in Georgia, for people who don't know, and I say this all the time, but it's fascinating.
Saxby
Chambliss. Oh, Saxby Chambliss sounds like a romance novel character. I've swooned in your arms, Saxby Chambliss. How indelicate. Let's ban abortion together. But no, what I'm saying is there was a Democratic governor in Georgia. It was the longest standing Democratic governor stronghold in the South until the sitting governor changed the size of the Confederate flag on the state flag and then lost the election. And since then, it's been Republicans. Don Siegelman was a Democratic governor in Alabama, and then he got thrown in jail, beat by Bob Riley, and then it's been Republican ever since. Like that is how long it takes to do a realignment in the South from 1860 to 2020.
Okay, we're gonna take an early second break because the Everton fan demands it. And so when we come back, we're gonna be giving you an update on a few different absolutely insane developments when it comes to the insurrection. And then is it possible that your genitalia is shrinking? You might be surprised by the answer after this. Past few days, there have been a number of potentially big developments when it comes to January 6th and the insurrection, the investigation of it. And so let's play a game, Brett. Will any of this matter at all? First up, we have Representative Barry Loudermilk, a Republican of Georgia, a House Republican lawmaker who acknowledged just yesterday that he did in fact bring a constituent family into the Capitol complex a day before rioters breached the Capitol on the 6th. That's after the select committee investigating the attack called on him to address evidence that had been presented that he had done so. So they finally had the evidence and he's like, okay, I did actually bring some people in a day before the insurrection. Now, the letter that they sent to Loudermilk says that previously they had reviewed security footage from January 5th and said there were no tours, no large groups, no one with MAGA hats on. Loudermilk is on that panel that said that. So they said, we've looked into it. There's nothing. None of us did that. Nobody on this panel led a group on January 5th. And a year plus goes by, and then the evidence turns out, no, they were wrong. They did that. Now, he didn't explain why he didn't disclose the tour over the past 16 months, nor did he indicate whether he would appear to testify before the group. But he did say that no member of the group that he led, quote, has been investigated or charged in connection to January 6th. The facts speak for themselves. No place the family went on the 5th was breached on the 6th. The family did not enter the Capitol grounds on the 6th. And he called on the US Capitol Police to release surveillance footage from January 5th. So, okay, he had been lying and he did do the thing he said he didn't do, but it doesn't matter because they weren't involved. He might be right. What do you think, Brett?
He lied and he got caught lying. And if you lie and you get caught lying, there should be some consequences for that. I didn't give any tours. You gave a tour, huh? You would think.
I said one would think there would be consequences.
But like, come on, dude. That like, here's the trick that everyone, please help me. The problem, the puzzle that everyone needs to help me solve. We point out things that should have consequences. And they don't have consequences. Why don't they have consequences? Well, the reason that they don't have consequences is because the people supporting the person that I want to have consequences befall, they don't care whether that person did the right thing or the wrong thing. They just know they need to support that person because someone has spoken to some aspect of their soul. So the puzzle to solve is how do you, I, and others speak to some aspect of their soul that they'll rank higher than whatever is motivating them to ignore the obvious need for consequences for lying, because that's obviously wrong. and they are ignoring that there should be consequences for something that should obviously be wrong. My argument to that would be telling them we want a higher minimum wage, telling them we don't want them to go bankrupt because they got sick, telling them that we want them to have jobs and we want more freedom for them. I want more freedom for them. The party they're supporting wants to check kids' genitals before they go swimming. Like their party wants you to run your actions by them to see if it jibes with their religion.
Yeah.
I have a religion, it's Greek mythology. I want them to now run by me that everything works with Greek mythology. Like it's so random.
Hold on, I think you were onto something. I think that that's a thing that I would have done. I think once you do that, you probably lose them because again, you've reminded them of something that they rank higher than even the wages and the freedom. But I do think that you're onto something potentially. I think in this case, it's going to be very hard to get any of them to think that this matters. The exact same right wingers who would be saying none of these things actually happened will immediately not care about whether it happened or not as soon as the evidence comes forth that it did in fact happen. So he'll testify. Maybe none of these people, maybe it wasn't connected to the 6th. I don't know. Maybe we'll never find out. But there are 2 other developments. We're gonna run through these and you let me know if any of these matter. One, Bill Barr is apparently in discussions to cooperate with the January 6th committee. He was of course there with Trump for a couple of months in the lead up to all of this. Hearing about their attempts to overthrow democracy and everything. So, and he, by the way, doesn't like Trump at all anymore. So maybe he'll get involved. Oh, and also some Republicans who had been in a meeting with Trump apparently heard him say that the Secretary of State of Michigan should be arrested for treason and executed because she stole the election from him. Her and I guess Kemp, in Georgia and Raffensperger. If it hadn't been for them, he would have still been present. She faced many death threats. This is the only one that we know of that apparently came specifically from Donald Trump. So, Brett, either of those things, will they matter?
I mean, asking Bill Barr to be the person who helps you means you got tricked, and that's what the left always seems to be, or that's what the Democratic establishment has made its stupid playbook, which is we got former Republicans who agree with us now. Oh, Mitt Romney's our ally. Oh, Murkowski's our ally. Bill Barr is our ally. No. He's only in this so that he can launder his own personal image and maybe take pot shots at Trump. But he's gonna calculate that way earlier than you do, ask him questions. And you're a fool if you think that he's gonna show up and say, here is the smoking gun Trump used to murder democracy.
Yeah. We'll see, maybe something will finally break through. You never know. I mean, Madison Cawthorn got knocked out in his primary, so some good things can happen.
Does this to humans as well. That's why genitals, I don't care if you're black or white, are a third the size they were of a 1960s male. So the media makes jokes about that a few months ago when I gave the example of, if your daddy's Johnson was a foot long, yours is 6 inches long. And if yours was 6 inches, your son will be 3 inches. And the one with them won't even have a penis. So we make jokes about that all day long, but this isn't a game. And you can say, okay, well, who cares? Well, we're sterilized.
Okay, so we're sterilized and our penises are a third the length that they were based on his rigorous analysis of, I'm assuming, a sample size of 1, honestly. I don't know, he's very worried about it. And to be fair, he has been talking about it for some time. Whether you're white or black, for some reason he threw that in there. I don't know why. Your Johnson is half the size of your daddy's and your kids will be a half the size, and then eventually just won't have a penis at all. Now, here's the thing about Alex Jones. Like Joe Rogan, it's not that there's literally nothing to what he's saying. We looked into a variety of different evidence of this. We're gonna talk about what we actually have. But the idea that the government, internationally, all of the governments have gotten together thinking, we need to stop free men. And the way to do that is to stop their big old penises. That's the problem. We can't beat them until we get those penises down to a reasonable size. That's where it gets crazy. It's not that there can't be something in the water that has consequences. It's just that he will always point the finger at the wrong thing. He will take his base, which gets fired up about something that might have a basis in truth, and he will turn it away from those who are actually responsible and send them at someone who has nothing to do with it. Anyway, Brett, but we're gonna jump into the evidence or whatever, but what do you make of this?
If anything can shrink your genitals, it's Alex Jones. And if you're wondering about how we were able to do this research at the damage report, you remember that video where it shows like it's from China and it's like 5 generations of like men in the family. It's like great grandfather walks in and then grandfather walks in. We did that. We had that with multiple families that had 5 generations, but they did it naked. And we watched it, and you can go to our YouTube channel for tier 3 members. You can see the videos that we made of naked generations of naked men.
That's actually available only for tier 4 members. So
we need an emote that says off topic.
Anyway.
Sophie has a card.
Okay, so let's get back on topic because he is making claims there about penises. This is not just a thing that will affect men. That's what he cares about because women to him are irrelevant and he knows what the composition of his audience is. But he does eventually get to how this could affect other people, including here.
Counts causing hormonal disturbances. Girls on average used to go into puberty at 13. The US national average is about 9. 3-year-old girls are now having periods. 5-year-old girls are now getting pregnant. Because these chemicals hyper-feminize females and feminize males.
Okay, Brett, I assume you're gonna make the point I was going to. What are you gonna say about that?
Go, I'm just gonna say that no one gets pregnant because of chemicals in the water. No, Alex, I don't know if we've had the birds and the bees and the frogs discussion with you yet. But people got to do things sexually. He knows what he said. That's the problem. Afterwards, he goes, "I'm pregnant at 5. Just keep going, Alex. It's weird for you, even.
I know.
Push through it."
So anyway, look. So something is apparently affecting your penises. Something is causing women to go through puberty earlier. Again, it's not that there is nothing here. It's that this is not like someone in the State Department having a meeting and being like, how can we make pregnant 5-year-olds? I'll put the chemicals in there. There are chemicals that are affecting people. There are hormones that are in our water, that are in our environment. If you want that to stop, the solution is not to defeat the deep state. It's to protect the environment. It's to regulate business. It's not Al Gore who's just running along streams with a bag full of penis chemicals, just throwing it willy-nilly into the waterways of America. These are chemicals that are in products that need to be better regulated. So if you want to stop this, if you're a conspiracy nut who watches the Frog Guy, then you should support a strong, vigorous EPA that has the authority, the ability, and the funding to regulate these chemicals, to stop them from being pumped out into the water, into the air, and all of that. That is the solution to these problems. Brett, what do you think?
That's it. I mean, this is what's so hilarious is that kernel of truth, even if you accept it, the conclusion he's making is insane. But like what it goes back to is regulating these companies so that they no longer poison people. And that's like the essence of at least my strain of progressivism, which is ground rules. That's it. Pragmatic progressivism is ground rules so that you don't kill or hurt people. That's it. And what happens is it usually is born from an asymmetry of power. The asymmetry in this case is major corporations in bed with the government that will allow this kind of stuff to happen. And when environmental groups try to do anything, it just never results in the kind of regulations that we need without some kind of super effective messaging campaign that people buy into. But at all times, like instead of inventing the bacteria that eat plastics, they just invent Alex Jones, which eats away at sanity.
Exactly. By the way, just really fast to cruise through some of the evidence. Chemicals like phthalates have been linked to lower testosterone levels. There's information available if you want to read about that. That's something potentially that you'd want to keep out of toys and detergents and nail polish and soaps and all that. Is Alex Jones asking for those things to be better regulated? I haven't seen it. Anyway, beyond that, I want to jump ahead because there's one other thing that you should think about. We have this doctor saying, when you get COVID-19, it can affect the linings of the blood vessels. This can create difficulty in getting blood flow from one part of the body to another. In fact, this can also affect blood flow getting to the penis. Getting COVID-19 makes you 5 times more higher risk of getting erectile dysfunction. And when you're losing blood flow to an area over time, this can cause shrinkage of the tissues itself, meaning that you might notice a decrease in penile length. Now, we have been seeing little updates about this throughout the pandemic. Alex Jones, very worried about the size of people's penises, has ignored this from the very beginning. He doesn't care. That's why, like, it's just one of many things they have never wanted you to protect yourself against when it comes to COVID-19. So again, if you're worried about the size of penises internationally, he's not exactly your ally. With that said, we unfortunately are gonna be out of time. So if you're on the podcast and the linear platforms, thank you so much for watching us throughout the week. We really do appreciate it. If you're watching on Twitch or on YouTube or one of our other platforms, we have more where that came from, including the garbage people of the week. So don't go anywhere. Brett and I are gonna take a quick couple-minute break, and then we'll be back with more. Ryan Nowicki sent in a super chat to say, hey John, do you see SCOTUS allowing election overturn challenges like 2000 POTUS race? And do you think it would spur serious SCOTUS reform attempts? Well, the thing that the SCOTUS did in 2000 it wasn't overturning the results. It was opportunistically ending a process that determined a winner, basically. Would they go further than that? Like if they had to rule on alternate slates of electors? I don't think we should expect that there's anything that they wouldn't do. But we'll have to see. In terms of whether that would spur serious SCOTUS reform attempts, by them, I'm not sure that it would matter if people finally wanted to reform the SCOTUS, because at that point we're in pretty dark times. But I'm also not sure that there's anything the SCOTUS could do that would get people like Joe Manchin or Kirsten Sinema to be willing to radically alter it.
There were two things about that decision. One was that it was it was like they liked the Republican, like that's kind of what it was, and the mechanisms of the state that actually fought against Trump were in favor of Bush at that point. So the state itself was corruptible in Florida. That's what we know for a fact. It was Bush's brother was the governor, right? So that part is flipped from this go around. And the other thing was we need to decide it now, because back then they were still in this era of the government is sacred and our peaceful transfer of power being quick and painless and bloodless is sacred to America. That has changed since 2000. And that's really scary. So in some ways, if they do what you're afraid of, they're doing the same thing. And in other ways, they're doing a different thing. And I think when it comes down to it, they would want to stay away from it as long as possible, which that argument's probably buttressed by the fact that there's a lot of people in those states that were questionable, laying the groundwork for Trump that they hadn't laid before the election in 2020.
Sure, I agree. Okay, Dinah Murray says in a super chat, Elon, you say I sexually assaulted you, prove it. Oklahoma GOP, you say you were sexually assaulted and need an abortion, prove it. Rape exception in new law requires reporting to cops, sick. Yeah, just terrible times. Thank you for that. Day Drunk Disco Dragon has been a member for 18 months, is recovering from surgery, so it's Day Sober Disco Dragon today. Hope that you recover quickly, that's funny. YTP Renewed says, left, right, side, what's the label for those who dislike corporate scum like Elon, but like the idea of making Twitter open to a bigger variety of views?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I think Twitter's too close to stuff. Like I think Twitter's too reactionary, and I think it's the same kind of, Jack is the same kind of person as Elon. He's just like a guy who's in love with himself and has power.
Yeah,
like
100%.
My take is it's a company. It can do what it wants as long as it's not materially hurting people. And can be restrained like yelling fire in a crowded room, but they can do whatever. They can do whatever they want. I don't think that's a weird opinion to have.
I agree. I don't like it as much when you say it as when YTP Renewed said it though. Sounds a little bit weird now. Yeah. Auntie Dragon over on Twitch has been with us for 8 months, says, as a disabled, autistic, non-binary human, I often feel forgotten and left behind. TYT overall, but the Dragon Squad specifically makes me feel seen and less alone. Thank you for your authenticity. That is awesome. Thank you for being with us. Minimorpho says, OMG, looks like Trashy had some heartburn. Yeah, Trashy's, I gotta eventually clear out Trashy. Trashy's in a rough space. Anyway, Trima Butiki also gifted a sub over on Twitch. Thank you for that.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Darola. I'll see you soon.